Okay, we've got a 1999 Toyota Sienna minivan. It's actually the CE model. I've got trouble with the window, power window, being intermittent. Sometimes not able to roll up all the way. You let it rest a while, then it's able to roll up some more, or it won't roll down. I'm told it's an issue with the motor in the door, and it's a known issue. And I'm going to take off the door panel now. Okay, first thing obviously, looks like this screw has to come out, so I'll take that out. Okay, that screw is out, and looks like there's something over here. Now that looks important. I'm going to see what's underneath this thing. Dang it. Yeah, there's something looks like there's a screw here. I'll take this one out too. So after this screw is out, you got to take this thing off, but it will appear to be stuck, and there's a hook holding it in on the inside on this here. So you got to pry it right about there and right about here, sort of the hinge that holds. Well, here, I'll just take it off and show you. See, there's this hook over here that holds it in this way, and the two things that will be retaining it besides the screw are right here, this one and this one, that kind of go on these clips. So when you pry, you got to pry it there and there. Pop this thing off. When that becomes loose, then you open this handle up and slide this off. That took me a while to figure out. So this little console has to come up. Actually, I already took it off, but to show you, you have to pry it from over here because there's a retaining clip on this side. Don't pry it on this side because that'll break the plastic. But push in with a screwdriver this way and pry it up. Alright, so this thing is loosened. You can see here's the clip over here, and on the other end is just a plastic thing. So this can be unplugged right there. Okay, so that little control panel's out. Now I've got to take off this thing. I actually already loosened it, but basically what you got to do is get a big screwdriver or a chisel or a couple of them and just stick it in there and pry this sucker right up. It's going to feel like you're breaking it. But actually all that's holding this thing in is some clips. You see there's two metal clips and there's some other plastic clips, I guess, sort of. And you just got to force it. And if you break one or two clips, then so be it. But I didn't break any clips. I just kept on prying and it came up. So under here, looks like we got two more screws. Okay, so far so good. Now, got to take off this main thing. And just got to get a big screwdriver and start prying. Loosen all these. There's some retaining tabs under here, and then this thing will just hopefully just pull off. Alright, to sum up, first I took off this screw from here and removed this thing. Also removed the screw from here. Pried this thing up, unplugged it. With great difficulty, pried this thing up. After taking that off, two screws right here. And then finally, got to get a big screwdriver. Probably should tape this up to avoid marring the paint finish, but I don't care. So shove that in there and just pop off those clips one at a time. So there'll be, I don't know, 4 to 6 clips, whatever. This thing will be loose, but it won't be loose at the top. The top is just sort of resting there on a lip. So what you got to do is kind of lift this thing up out of the window. and it should come off. Now you can't see this, but I'm unplugging the door light over here. This is the final cable, and now that it's open, you have access to everything and can do what you need. As I had mentioned, there was trouble with the window getting slow and not being able to push up all the way. So I already lubricated the slide and the parts of the window. So it wasn't just a lubrication issue. Could it be the switch, or is it actually the motor? Where is the problem? The switch had a whole bunch of electronics in it, so I didn't want to test it. But instead, I've taken, this is where the console plugged in with the switch. I've taken this. This is the ground up here in this corner, and this yellow wire is connected to the positive terminal of the battery. These two on the bottom right are the terminals of the window motor. So I've just gotten some solid wire, happen to have a little bit handy, and I'm going to see what happens when I just put some voltage on it. Okay, so that's, the window goes down, big deal. Going up, it will get stuck usually. That's where I usually had the trouble. So be very careful here. So I don't want to short across 12 volts. I swapped the polarity of the motor. Okay, it ran out of gas. And still, as you can see, the motor, the window's not all the way up. It just, yeah, and then died. So I'm pretty convinced it is, in fact, the motor. So I've determined that the motor or something in the motor assembly is no good. So what I'm doing, I've lowered or raised the window to where this bottom bar is exactly where I can get at that bolt in there. There's a nut head. I think this hole is probably made so you can access that. And there's another one here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These last 4 are for the motor itself, I believe. Now, after I take this stuff off, we don't want the window to drop when we remove this assembly. So we're going to tape this and secure it up here with duct tape. Alright, so got the windows taped up. So this glass shouldn't fall. And now can start taking off these bolts. Alright, so I got that lifter assembly out. There were 8 screws. One thing I noticed was this screw was particularly tight, and I had to completely remove the screw. It looked like you could just swivel it out and then push it through here, but for some reason it wouldn't work that way. Also, I would advise people to wear heavy gloves because, here, let me show you the mechanism. Here's kind of what it looks like. You see how it looks like a scissors? If you take out the bolt and this thing drops and your finger happens to be in there, that would be bad. So be careful. Anyway, that's the mechanism. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a Sharpie and I think I will mark where this thing is. Because when I installed a new one, I want it to be in the kind of a similar position so it's easy to bolt down. Alright, so here's the original assembly that I took out of the door, and I looked online and I could get that motor just by itself for about $80, or I could get the whole assembly for about $150. But I could get a clone, sort of a compatible one, off of eBay for $37. So that's what I got. Rather than debug, try to figure out what's wrong with that original one, I'll just get the whole thing. 37 bucks, free shipping. Still had to pay tax, of course. The clone is not exactly the same, because if you look at this top arm here, this arm has a pivot over here. You look at the clone, the arm just simply stops right there. But seems like this should work. It's not really necessary to have a second pivot. And I tried it on the connector and it works, so I'm going to install it now. Okay, so I've got these two screws in and these four for the motor, and the last two are the ones that connect the window down here. But I can't really push this down because this is fixed now and the window is here, so I'm going to need somebody to help me lift this window up so that it can drop into these two tabs. Uh-oh. Yeah, only has to go up a little bit. Yeah, you got it? Okay. Hold it right there. Alright, so the whole thing is installed and I put back this moisture barrier, this plastic thing, but I found out that the switch operates backwards from what it should be. When I push the switch down, the window goes up, which is backwards from the original. So this cheap sale replacement one is backwards. No problem. Here's the connector over here, and I'm going to just open it up. And I'm going to switch the, see, just pry this sucker right off. I'm going to take out those two wires and just swap them. And then it should work fine. Okay, final check. Wax on. Yep. Wax off. Looks good. Okay, I'll get everything buttoned up now.